The woman who just ended a Wimbledon champion's dream was supposed to be the one writing the fairy tale. Instead, a 21-year-old from the Philippines walked onto center court, silenced a giant slayer, and sent a sold-out stadium into absolute frenzy. Eala-mania has officially reached its peak. The Eala era is here, and the tennis world will never be the same. The script had been written. The tennis world had been buzzing about it for days. Alycia versus Linda Noskova, the reigning Wimbledon champion, a rematch that would test whether the Filipina sensation could conquer one of the few players who had consistently troubled her. Noskova had beaten Eala twice before at Indian Wells and in Berlin. The stage was set for a blockbuster third-round clash that would have sent center court into orbit. But Caty McNally never reads the script. The 24-year-old American, ranked number 70 in the world, had other plans. In what would become one of the biggest upsets of the Canadian Open, McNally walked onto the court and stunned the world number 7 in a match that left everyone in disbelief. She trailed 5-1 in the first set, saved 2 set points, then won 12 of the final 14 games to complete a stunning 7-6-5-6-1 victory. It was only her second career win over a top 10 opponent. "It's never easy playing anyone, but especially a Wimbledon champion," McNally said after the match. "And she's really dangerous, so I had to just focus on my side of the net. Even at the end, she's gonna go out swinging, just trying to do what I do best." The victory showcased everything that makes McNally a dangerous competitor. The American, who had spent years quietly building her game while often being overshadowed by her more famous doubles partner Coco Gauff, had just announced herself on the biggest stage. She had weathered the storm when Noskova was dictating play, then seized control with relentless pressure and fearless shot-making. And just like that, the dream matchup between Eala and Noskova was gone. But what replaced it was something perhaps even more intriguing. Two players who had both just done the unthinkable, one by ending a Wimbledon champion's dream, the other by avenging her own Australian Open heartbreak just hours earlier. Now, for the first time in their careers, Eala and McNally were set to face each other, and the stakes had never been higher. "It's going to be crazy," McNally told reporters, fully aware of what awaited her. "I'm expecting a full crowd, and every single person cheering for her, and my little team cheering for me. But it's going to be a great experience no matter what." McNally knew exactly what she was walking into. She had seen the footage from Eala's previous match. She had heard the roar of 10,000 fans wave Philippine flags. She had witnessed the phenomenon that had taken over Toronto. The Eala effect that had sold out the Wednesday night session in just 30 minutes. Forced organizers to move Eala from the 2,800-seat grandstand to center court, and even inspired a food vendor to swap chicken teriyaki for chicken adobo. But McNally wasn't intimidated. She had just beaten a Wimbledon champion, she had nothing to lose, and she was ready for whatever came next. The sold-out crowd packed into center court at SoBi Stadium had come expecting one thing. They had come to see Alycia continue her historic run, to watch the Filipina sensation extend her winning streak to 7 matches, to witness the Eala effect reach new heights. But standing in her way was a woman who had just rewritten her own story, and had no intention of letting the fairy tale continue. Caty McNally had done what few players could even imagine. She had beaten the reigning Wimbledon champion. She had stunned the world number 7. She had come back from 5-1 down in the first set, saved 2 set points, and won 12 of the final 14 games to complete one of the biggest upsets of the tournament. For a player ranked no. 70 in the world, who had only one career win against a top 10 opponent before this match, the victory was the kind of breakthrough that could define a career. But McNally was not intimidated. She had nothing to lose, and she knew exactly what she was walking into. "I'm expecting a full crowd and every single person cheering for her," she said before the match. "But it's going to be a great experience no matter what." The Eala-McNally matchup was a first-time meeting. They had never played each other before on the professional tour. The unknown added an extra layer of intrigue to an already electric atmosphere. Eala, the world number 20, had the momentum of her Washington title and revenge victory over Parks. McNally, riding the high of her shocking win over Noskova, had the confidence of a giant slayer. When the two players walked onto center court, the roar was deafening. Thousands of Philippine flags waved in the stands. The chants of "Let's go, Alex" echoed through SoBi Stadium like thunder. The city of Toronto had been taken over by Eala-mania, and there was no sign of it slowing down. But McNally refused to be intimidated by the atmosphere. She had faced top seeds before. She had beaten one just days ago, and she was determined to do it again. The match began with both players testing each other's range. Eala, who had won her last 6 matches, came out with the confidence of a champion, but McNally, fueled by her upset win, matched her shot for shot. The first set was a battle of wills, a war of attrition where neither player was willing to give an inch. Eala's left-handed serve, which had been so effective against Parks, was being read by McNally's returning prowess. The Americans' flat ground strokes were finding their mark, forcing Eala to scramble. Meanwhile, the 24-year-old McNally was making a case for herself as more than just a doubles specialist. While she was best known for her partnership with Coco Gauff, she was proving to the world that she was a force to be reckoned with in singles. She had just beaten a Wimbledon champion. Now she was testing a top 20 player in front of a crowd that was clearly against her. The Filipino crowd, however, was relentless. Every point Eala won was celebrated like a championship point. Every moment of brilliance was met with a roar of approval. They had traveled from across Canada, from the United States, even from the Philippines, just to witness this moment. And they were not going to let their hero down. But McNally was unfazed. She had come too far to let the crowd intimidate her. She had beaten a Grand Slam champion just days ago. She was playing with the confidence of a player who had nothing to prove and everything to gain. As the first set wore on, the tension became unbearable. The crowd, the stakes, the significance of the moment, all of it hung in the air like a storm waiting to break. And when the first set finally reached its conclusion, the stadium erupted. The match was on, and the tennis world was watching to see if the Filipina sensation could conquer another giant slayer. The match between Eala and Caty McNally was a battle of wills from the very first point. Two players who had both just achieved the unthinkable, one by ending a Wimbledon champion's dream, the other by avenging her own Australian Open heartbreak, were now locked in a struggle that would test every facet of their games. McNally had entered the match with the confidence of a giant slayer. She had beaten the world No. 7 just 2 days earlier, coming back from 5-1 down in the first set, saving 2 set points and winning 12 of the final 14 games. It was only her second career win over a top 10 opponent, and it had announced her arrival on the biggest stage. But Eala was riding arguably the hottest stretch of her young career. Her championship run at the WTA D.C. Open in Washington had transformed what had already been a breakout season into something even bigger. She had defeated an Olympic gold medalist, the defending champion, the world number 10, a 4-time Grand Slam champion, and finally, world No. 3 Jessica Pegula to capture the biggest title of her career. The stunning 5-match run had firmly established Eala as one of the WTA Tour's fastest rising stars. Now, with 6 consecutive wins under her belt and the momentum of her Washington title behind her, Eala was ready for the challenge. The crowd at center court was ready too. Thousands of Philippine flags waved in the stands. The chants of "Let's go, Alex" echoed through Sobeys Stadium like thunder. McNally had known exactly what she was walking into. She had seen the footage from Eala's previous match. She had heard the roar of 10,000 fans. "I'm expecting a full crowd and every single person cheering for her, and my little team cheering for me," she had said before the match. "But it's going to be a great experience no matter what." And it was. The victory over Caty McNally wasn't just another win for Eala. It was a statement, a declaration that the Filipina sensation had arrived not just as a crowd favorite, but as a legitimate contender for one of the biggest titles in women's tennis. The Canadian Open, a WTA 1000 event with a $7.43 million prize pool, had just seen its most unexpected protagonist advance to the round of 16. Eala had entered the tournament as the 25th seed, earning a first-round bye after her historic Washington title run. She had already avenged her Australian Open heartbreak with a gritty 6-1, 4-6, 6-2 victory over Alycia Parks, a win that extended her winning streak to 6 matches on the North American hard-court swing. And now, she had just silenced a giant slayer who had ended a Wimbledon champion's dream just days earlier. The stakes were enormous. The Canadian Open is one of the most prestigious tournaments on the WTA calendar, offering 1,000 ranking points to the champion. For Eala, who had just cracked the top 20 for the first time in her career, every point mattered. A deep run in Toronto would catapult her even higher, potentially into the top 15, securing her seeding at the US Open and changing the trajectory of her career forever. But the significance of Eala's run went far beyond rankings and prize money. It was about what she represented, a nation of over 110 million people, seeing one of their own on the biggest stage. A diaspora that had packed stadiums from Miami to Dubai to Washington and now Toronto, waving Philippine flags and chanting her name. A young woman who had risen from number 140 to No. 20 in just 18 months, proving that greatness can come from anywhere. The run had also captured the attention of the tennis world. Former world No. 1 Andy Roddick had called her the real deal. Margaret Court, the most decorated player in tennis history, had broken her silence to praise Eala's heart and determination. Chris Evert had presented her with a special VIP award, calling her an inspiration. The Eala effect had officially taken over the sport. Now with a place in the round of 16 secured, Eala's path to the final remained treacherous. The draw was stacked with talent, including potential meetings with Coco Gauff and Aryna Sabalenka looming. But if there was one thing Eala had proven in the past 18 months, it was that she thrived when the stakes were highest. The Canadian Open had found its story, and the tennis world was watching to see how far Eala could go. The victory over Caty McNally was more than just another win. It was the latest chapter in a story that had already defied all expectations. A story that began in the Philippines, continued through the academies of Spain, and now unfolded on the biggest stages in tennis. A story that had seen a 21-year-old rise from number 140 to no. 20 in just 18 months. Eala had entered the Canadian Open on the back of the most significant achievement of her career. Just days earlier, she had defeated world no. 3 Jessica Pegula in the Washington D.C. final, becoming the first Filipino, male or female, to win a WTA Tour title. The victory had been nothing short of extraordinary. Eala dropped the first set 4-6, then broke serve in the 10th and final game of the second to level the match, before sweeping every game of a 6-0 third set. In that final set, she dropped just 8 points on her own serve while breaking Pegula 3 times to seal the title. The Washington run had been the most brutal draw imaginable. Every opponent Eala faced was either a Grand Slam champion, a Grand Slam finalist, or a current top 10 player. She beat Olympic champion Zheng Qinwen, defending champion Leylah Fernandez, world no. 10 Alina Svitolina, 4-time Grand Slam champion Naomi Osaka, and finally world no. 3 Jessica Pegula. Eala became the first player to defeat the top 3 seeds en route to a WTA title since Barbora Krejcik of Dubai in 2023. That victory pushed Eala into the WTA top 20 for the first time, climbing to a career-high number 20. Her record against top 10 players now stood at an impressive 9-4, with 7 of those victories coming in 2026 alone. Hall of Fame coach Rick Macci, who has worked with 5 players that reached the rankings summit, predicted that Eala will be in the top 5 by the end of the year. Now in Toronto, Eala had extended her North American hard-court winning streak to 7 matches. She had avenged her Australian Open heartbreak against Parks. She had silenced a giant slayer who had ended a Wimbledon champion's dream. And she had done it all in front of a sold-out crowd that had transformed Sobeys Stadium into a celebration of Filipino pride. What does this mean for the future? It means that Eala is no longer just a promising young player. She is a legitimate contender for the biggest titles in the sport. The Canadian Open, the Cincinnati Open, the US Open, these are no longer just tournaments. They are opportunities for Eala to continue rewriting history. A win would catapult her into the round of 16 of a WTA 1000 event for the first time since her Miami Open breakthrough in 2025. And with 1,000 ranking points on offer for the champion, the stakes could not be higher. But the significance of Eala's run goes far beyond rankings and prize money. It is about what she represents. A nation of over 110 million people seeing one of their own on the biggest stage. A diaspora that has packed stadiums from Miami to Dubai to Washington and now Toronto, waving Philippine flags and chanting her name. A young woman who has become more than just a tennis player. She has become a movement. I'm eternally grateful, Eala had said after her victory over Parks. My fellow Filipinos, week after week I see you supporting me. Week after week I see how much you love your fellow Filipino, and that makes me incredibly proud to be Filipino. The Eala effect has officially taken over the tennis world. From the sold-out stadiums to the chicken adobo added to the tournament's food offerings. From the viral videos to the praise from legends like Chris Evert and Margaret Court, Eala-mania is unstoppable. And the best part? The story is only just beginning.